I'm just going to kick it over to you, and then we're just going to talk about the thing.
Yeah, no, you just kind of guide the discussion, and I'll sell the
Alright.
answers.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to NEOStreams. My name is Alex Schacht, and with me, as always, is Chris Fulop, former national champion.
9-time world competitor, world finalist as well. Nope, it's only short hours.
That's pretty good. What we're going to be doing is a deck tech series. Our first video is going to be on Eelbox. These are decks that we would recommend someone be playing at the cities coming up. So let's get started on the Pokemon here. It is, like I said, an Eelbox deck, so it starts right here with a 4-3 electric.
Alright, I guess let me touch on that real quick. Obviously, we're going to go pretty basic with this just because, like, we want new and experienced players to be able to use the deck if they want to play this for turns and such. For the past year or so, there's been debate between what Dynamo you want to actually use. There's the Thunder Wave one, and then there's the free treating one as well. With the Darkrai and especially now Landorus, the 30 HP one, despite having a free treat cost, is really not viable anymore. I was trying to force it so I didn't have to run stuff like Sky Arrow Bridge. Lets you have a little bit more aggressive starts, but the metagame is just not friendly towards it. Like you are pretty well. No, it's just
anything divisible. Yeah,
and you're really stuck just playing the 40 hit point one. There's one that does 10 damage to the bench, which you could theoretically play one of, but I'm not a fan of that. This is pretty much the default go-to Dynamo now. One other thing to touch on with that Dynamo, as I can cut you off there real quick, people were playing at regionals this year, the Victini, to allow you to do to reflip the Thunder Wave to stall against the aggressive decks. Obviously, you see that we're not running Victini anymore. It's a conscious decision. Skyla, which is one of the most impactful cards to come out of the new expansion.
Changes a lot.
Changes a lot. Allows decks to run 1-2 switch. Just a couple of ways to deal with status conditions. And decks like Darkrai, which normally would run something like that, can even run Keldeo now as a way to escape status conditions. So you really can't bank on a paralyzation strategy. So Victini got the cut.
Yeah. So after
the Eels, the three Eels, maybe.
Yeah. Do you want to hit on the why there's three?
Mainly, to put it simply, you lose a lot of Dynamos. You rarely need the fourth eel because you end up losing one or two Dynamos in the course of a game. If they're not killing Dynamos, then you're probably winning anyways. You just need to be able to get a bunch of Dynamos into play, and I actually made an audible decision down from 4 electrics to 3 at a city championships a couple weekends ago, which I managed to top 8 at, and I needed to make a cut to fit the Mewtwo in. And
I believe this was
there were a couple other changes, but it was directly to make the cut for the Mewtwo at the time. And the 3 electrics played so close to what 4 did that I didn't even notice the difference, basically. The only time it was ever an issue is if you had like one of them prized, you had like Juniper one away, but you have Super Rod, which you can now get easily with Sky Arrow Bridge, well, not Sky Arrow Bridge, but Skyla.
Yeah, which is something we'll hit on the trainers. But
it's just an expendable cut. Obviously, 4-4 would be perfect. There's no reason not to run 4-4 if you have the room, but you really don't. So I'd much rather take the cut. The damage done is minimal. So
the next part here is we have 2 Emolgas. Those are basically to help with setup, searchable by a level ball, and that. And the more important part of the deck is the toolbox strategy that we have. We have 1 Shaman EX.
I think there's something to be said more about the Emolgas though too. At the core of the deck doesn't actually have anything such as a good opener. You don't want to get a Dynamo killed early on. Like, some of the guys have really bad retreat costs. Nothing's very aggressive to open with. Like, you're gaming for a real late game strategy.
Having you really on the bench too with the electrics.
It works with the electrics, so you can switch out to get energy in your active, particularly the Rayquazas. But like, it's your best opener, and you have enough switching effect, especially with Skyla, that you can actually get him active turn 1. Even if you don't open with him and attack with him more often than you think you'd be able to. But the other thing is that it's resistant to fighting. If you want to zoom in on him real quick, right click. He's resistant to fighting and has that free retreat cost, and that's really effective towards slowing down Landorus decks. A lot of times they'll catcher around it, but it forces them to use catchers early. It lets you actually start to get set up a bit, and it is hedging your bets against Landorus, which is admittedly difficult card for the deck to deal with.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure, like, at times I wish that I had less Emolga, maybe just the one of, And at times I wish I just had a bunch of them because they're so good every
Yeah,
time
when
you
you
open
get to
them.
when you get to start with one, it changes the way the deck sets up immediately. It's very different.
It's very fast. But I'm pretty content with 2. I think that's a good starting point. You can go less. I don't know if I would justify 3 when, again, we already touched on the fact that we're a little crunched on space. But let's get him out of there.
All right, so the next part is, like we said, it's a toolbox deck. So one of the first guys we play with is Shaman. If you want to hit on these guys real quick.
Shaman, ironic that you picked him as the first one, is probably the most expendable one. It's in there for 2 main reasons. One, you need a way to deal with Keldeo. And Keldeo, you have the Keldeo Blastoise decks, which actually are favorable for Rayquaza Electric anyways.
Very much so is what we've seen.
We tested a few of those the other night while streaming Magic, actually, and it did not go well for Keldeo. We didn't even run Shaman in that list. It was our friend's deck. And this shores it up. In Ohio, Keldeo Blastoise is huge. It's probably the most played deck.
I would say that I know for a fact that last weekend one of my friends played a deck, and he said 5 of his 6 matches were Keldeo Blastoise.
Yeah.
I was baffled by the amount that's seeing play. So if you're around this area, we definitely are seeing a lot of Keldeo decks.
Yeah. The other thing that is useful for him is, and I touched on earlier how Timos always die.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the electrics die as well. And when that's happening, then you get to the point where you're a bit crunched on energies. Again, this is a build focusing on Rayquaza EX, so you're dumping your energies every turn a lot of times. And if they're choosing to kill your electrics rather than even just hitting your Rayquaza, it can make for a slightly awkward exchange where you're just dry on energy, and you can't hit that 180 damage towards the end of the game just because you don't have that threshold of electrics in play. And when you're doing that, you need something that can deal huge amounts of damage for low energy. So it's a low maintenance source of a KO at the end of the game. So you just have to try to set it up so that the exchange leaves them with 1 prize instead of 2, so they can't do the incremental kill on EXs, so that they can just skip him being really powerful. And he can really clean up a game at the very end.
Oh, yeah.
So he's
a great option for the last prize card.
That being said, he's probably the most expendable of the attackers.
Next is an old classic here, as far as this format goes, Zekrom.
We went with Zekrom over Raikou EX, and again, this is another call that I'm not 100% sure on. But I actually went down to 0 lightning attackers at first, well, real lightning attackers, and I realized that you kind of want it for cards like Empoleon, and you want it for cards like
we played against
Tornadus
Sigilyph.
The card's great against the Sigilyph deck.
The Buffalon decks. There's a lot of cards that, like, having just a large non-EX one guy that'll give up 1 prize card can not only help the exchanges, but also it deals a lot of damage, and it can it crushes Tornadus, which is really nice to have it in there too.
Right. I mean, you can hypothetically get kills with the Rayquazas and stuff on these Pokemon as well, but it's nice to have
2 prize cards.
Right. I mean, if you're going with the Toolbox strategy, you want those silver bullets. Mm-hmm. He covers a lot of matchups. The main tiebreaker between him over the Raikou is that he's not an EX, and the number of times I opened up that Raikou and just got tracked.
Yeah, this guy's a much better.
I mean, you don't really want to open with either.
Oh no,
he's not the liability on the bench. That
again, if you can take a Molga every time, you're always doing it. Next, we're moving on to Mewtwo. Not a lot to say about this one. The reason this Mewtwo is so good is because we have the Energy Accelerants. Obviously good against other Mewtwo's, right?
He would be better if we had DCEs. If we have DCEs in the deck. And there are definitely builds of electric decks that are running like Tornadus, Mewtwo, more of like Buffalon. I don't actually know the correct.
Yeah, and actually don't get there are 2 different distinct types. One of them is that this is more of a toolbox strategy.
With the Toolbox and Rayquaza, I feel if you're going with the Rayquaza variant where you need the fire sources,
it makes it easier.
There's no reason not to go with Prisms and diversify a little bit. But the other thing with Mewtwo is one of the things that can be kind of challenging for the deck is if your opponent gets a turn on Mewtwo and has Catcher and can put pressure on and kill your Dynamos right out of the gate, it became very difficult to actually power up something to deal with the Mewtwo without falling way too behind. And having something like Mewtwo here allows you to answer that threat a little bit quicker, and that puts you in games that you would otherwise not have been in. And the other thing is it's also another crutch against Keldeo. Mewtwo's not absolutely fantastic against Keldeo, but it's pretty good.
X-Ball's very, very powerful when you have 6
so if they want to try to deal with your Rayquaza and kill that, they're going to walk into a pretty brutal Mewtwo,
Yeah, so the Mewtwo for Bear just kills it with as long as you have the X-Ball.
And 6 energy is not going to get a kill on. It's going to be 120 plus the 2 for that's 160. So you have to.
So you do need one.
You need an extra energy. But we have the electrics obviously with Dynamotor, and then we have the energy switch.
All right, which we'll hit on when we get to the trainers. The next
We'll give
little
you some
guy,
spoilers here in advance.
Terrakion, always very powerful, good against Darkrai. It's phenomenal.
As good as Darkrai, it is a cheap answer to kill like Dynamos, Electrics, Retaliate. It kills Buffon. It's just a really easy splash. The card's played fantastic for me. That was one of the main driving forces of why I went with the Prisms. I've been using this deck since the turn of rotation, and I mean Darkrai is a little bit more powerful then, and popular at least. Darkrai's somewhat fallen out of favor.
Yeah, it seems like just having a really strong, easy, quick, like two energy
anything
attacker in fighting.
Stuff is still weak to fighting, and it's a great answer for all of that.
The next guy here is Little Rayquaza, like they call him.
Like Baby Ray.
Baby Ray.
But yeah, Little Big Baby Ray, we'll call him. The
trademark.
Little Big, trademark. Yeah, another NEOStreams exclusive. Trend setting. The main reason, this is another guy who would get cut first of all, but he's good for Rayquaza exchanges. He kills Hydreigon, which is another comically good matchup for you anyways, because they're absolutely glacial. All the slow evolution decks, this deck just rolls over. And I feel like the deck beats everything except Landorus decks to begin with, or at least goes 50-50 with them, and you have such a positive matchup against some of the decks in the format. Like, I've seen people play Kling Clang, the Keldeo Blastoise decks, the Hydreigon decks. All those are just slower than you, and when they set up, they do less than you. Their end game, which is what they're trying to sacrifice speed to achieve, is actually just worse than your end game. So those you should roll them pretty reliably. But the main thing that keeps this guy in here, actually, besides being able to do like reliable two-shot with Shred and not being an EX, is Dragon Pulse kills Dynamos. It kills
Dino on one hit, which is apparently I've heard the switch over to the Dragon type Dino.
Yeah.
To not die to Landorus, so it actually makes him a little.
I've seen lists that are doing like a split, so that they can kind of go with either. But it can kill
either way.
Them,
it has a lot of things that could just kill with that first attack, and it's a very powerful one. And then we're going to go into the bread and butter of the deck, Rayquaza EX.
Yeah. Rayquaza EX, the most degenerate thing you can do in the format. If your deck is functioning, then being able to do 180 or more damage every turn is just you can't keep up with that. No deck can, especially decks that don't have energy manipulation. Even the basic decks, which can hit for low energy, like eventually they will fall behind if you're able to keep up with the stream of that. 2 is the absolute perfect number. We do have a bunch of silver bullets and everything to attack matchups with, but you need something that you can just fall back in and just be able to punish them with. And
if you don't know what they're doing, it's the perfect thing to just start off.
I mean, you should be going for it.
You should be knowing. Yeah,
but
at most
the problem is some of the decks that you need the silver bullets to pressure you very quickly, and this is why Terrakion's good against like Darkrai, for example. And the way that they beat you sometimes is they keep you off of your eels and they start killing them, and because of this, you can't power up a Rayquaza quick enough to get a return KO. And by the time you do, you're stripping yourself of all of your energies, and they're just continuing to pressure your support Pokemon like the Electrics. And you just need something to break up their initial attack, and that's where the silver bullets come in. They're to answer your opponent's faster starts, so that you can slow the game down enough or put enough pressure on them that you can force a situation where you can start getting the Rayquazas out. And that's why Terrakion against Darkrai is good, and it's why Landorus is such a big problem, because you don't have a way to slow it down. It's the same role that Darkrai was playing before, except it's a little bit quicker, and it doesn't have an exploitable weakness. Being weak to water, there's not really anything you can splash to kill that. So that's why that's a bit of a rough matchup. But Rayquaza, again, kills everything. Once you get set up, nothing can keep up with you. 2's the perfect number. You can't afford to not have one if it's prized or something like that, or if you have to discard it or it gets killed early. Like, you need to have the 2. You don't need more than that, because in the matchups where there are matchups where it's bad, and those are the ones where they're getting easily one-shotted. And in those matchups, you don't want to be attacking with it all that much anyways. So 2, absolutely perfect. No need to play more than that. And we're finally Pokemon section?
Pokemon. Okay. That's all the Pokemon that we're playing in this deck. So we're going to trainers. First off, supporters.
Yeah, let's touch on supporters first.
Yeah, there's as Pokemon loads for us here. We have
slowly.
4 N as a quick overview. 4 Juniper and 4 Skyla. For the most powerful supporters, if you want to hit on. Obviously, it's not too much to explain why they're good, but why we use them in this.
I'm not going to go too much over Juniper. It's the best raw draw supporter in the format,
Raw draw.
especially in the situation where you want to be able to discard cards with lightning energy early, so you can give them the discard pile of the Dynamotor. So that's an easy 4 of. This deck is somewhat self-sufficient, so with N, this is one of the best N decks outside of anything like Empoleon.
Empoleon is very
where
good,
it has continual draw to use after N with the ability. But with N, like obviously, it's another powerful card early on. Refills your hand. You can use it as card advantage. But it's also disruption. Like it's a way to make comebacks. You can stick people dead hands. You can take away carefully crafted plans very easily. And this deck is fairly resilient to it because a lot of our energy comes from the discard pile from Dynamotor off of the electrics. So this is an absolutely fantastic deck to be abusing that way.
And gets a little bit better because of Skylup, because sometimes Skylup is now a 4-up in most decks, and a lot of times the correct play is Skylup for Juniper, Skylup for a draw supporter, and having the end to play some off of that sometimes can just be real good. Like sometimes it's just not necessarily what you want to be doing, but Skyling, after they Skyline, you can end away what they're getting. It's very good. It's like a time walk, if anyone gets what that is. So it's going to lead
that's a Magic reference.
right into Skyla here, which is just an incredible card. I was super... I didn't think it was as good as it was until I played with it. I haven't played Pokemon in a while.
I'm going to actually side with you on that point, where when I read it, I'm like, okay, this card is somewhat okay, but what it does with the rest of the cards in the format, and the card that really makes it is Computer Search.
But we'll get into that in a second.
Which is all the way on the right side of the screen there. And, well, left side, actually. It'll probably be on your right side. But
yes.
So see, I was not making a mistake. I was just compensating for that. But Computer Search, obviously your primary target with Skyla a lot of times was to get anything in the deck. You can do a Skyla on your turn, get a Computer Search, and you want to be a little bit more reactive. Like if you plan on getting something like a Juniper, you can hold the Computer Search until your next turn.
Yeah, that's a play not enough people make, I don't think. It's kind of, I think it's interesting. Like we
used to be reactive.
Yeah, and just having it to be reactive is a play that I don't think enough people make. I think it was really cool. We played some games with it, and I always thought that was an interesting line.
And the other thing is, like, you don't want to burn it in case it gets end.
Yeah.
Like, if you get yourself end away. And the other thing is, if you can get away with it, not skyling for Computer Search early on in the game is probably better, because that's a great card to be able to get later on in the game.
Computer Search just gets better and better the less cards in your deck. So with Skyla, we were saying it's very powerful. We play a lot of silver boards.
Like with the Pokemon, we have a nice toolbox of Pokemon. We are doing the same thing with the trainers.
Yeah.
So let's actually deviate away from the support.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Bianca a little bit later. So we obviously saw Computer Search. We have a lot of single target cards.
That just replaced the 14th energy.
Yeah.
It lets us get a fire or
get the one fire
or lightning. It just makes it so that your Skyla can get energies.
Pretty basic. It just makes Skyla a better card. This is probably the best Skyla target in the deck.
That is a card that I was running as many as 3 of.
Yes.
In previous builds. You can get away with running 1 now. I actually still like 2. I feel that it helps mitigate the damage done to you whenever your opponent starts killing your electrics and everything. It lets you get surprise attackers a little bit early on. You can reliably get 2 electrics in play, which is 2 Dynamotors, meaning you can do 120 with an electric in 1 turn fairly reliably. If you have an energy on any Molga, sitting on something that they consider non-threatening, that you can just leave aside, that's not your attacker, you can move that over, and it makes it so the deck is much more capable of being able to deal 180 damage, which is the magic number to kill EXs.
Yeah, outside of
without EV lights and
that's
such. But that's a special circumstance, anyways. And the card just really messes up math. People don't see it coming a lot of times, and especially now that you have 4 Skylas in the deck, there's no reason not to run 1 of.
A lot easier to get a hold of. Also makes Tarakian very, very powerful. Can come out of nowhere. Then the last one we play only one of is the second last one we play only one of is Super Rod. Pretty basic here. Every deck's running it. It's for the most part
better with.
Skyla makes it a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot all about Skyla.
Yeah, I almost forgot about this one here until I.
There was a very good chance we were just gonna
leave out Skyla. They'd be like, only 59 cards. What are they doing? And Skyar Bridge, one of to get with Skyla. Really good because the Tynamos have 1 retreat. It also knocks out Beach, which is
somewhat relevant.
Really relevant.
Like, especially if you're hitting an N, like preventing them from being able to draw out of it.
Yeah, it's very, very good. It also makes sure, I believe your big rays have free retreat.
Yeah,
too,
Big Daddy Ray.
So those are all the Skyla targets. The last supporter we did have.
Real quick. The one that we just cut though was we had a Tool Scrapper.
Tool Scrapper for a little while, guys.
And that was another one that got ousted. It depending on your metagame, like that's a card that's more than reasonable to put back in. Deals with EVO, like if Garbodor played at all. I know that has
because I see some of the big. If the old speed Darkrai decks before this set came out is still around, a lot of those were playing multiple Evil Edge.
And the metagame around the country is going to be.
It's always going to be different.
You
folks, so
generally can find out what is played in your area, and you can tweak the trainers and stuff.
I would definitely recommend doing that, by the way, guys.
Yeah, but like that's a perfectly good card. There's a lot of like Max Potion is another card that you can run as a one-of. I know some people are. Like,
I enjoy it.
Our friend is running 2.
David Cook's playing 2 of them. That card is very powerful. It's a card
I like 1. I don't have the room for 1. Like you'll notice I'm playing 14 supporters. I don't think I want to play less than that, especially when 4 of them are Skylas, which, while absolutely incredible, is not quite a full-fledged supporter in terms of being able to refill your hand immediately.
Very true.
So it's not as good as like an N recovery late game. So you do have to realize that you have to have enough cards in the deck to recover from N, which I guess we can seg back into the Bianca point here.
Yeah, Bianca, I love.
I don't know what's up with her glasses. The lack of a
zero lenses. Zero lenses.
Those are.
If you've never noticed, 0 lenses on Bianca. But Bianca, I actually thought was a really incredible card coming into this format after I saw Ultra Ball, but it just keeps getting better, and I like it a lot.
I like running 2 of them. I feel that's the perfect number. They get worse the more if you draw more than 1 at a time.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played more than 2 of them.
It's a card that becomes absolutely incredible as the game progresses when hands get depleted and ends start going, like ends to 3, 2, 1 become incredibly commonplace.
It's the 6th rep.
Keep in mind that once you get into a very low hand size, a card like N is not a good recovery card. A card like Skyla is not necessarily going to be a good recovery card. It can be.
You have to be like, you have to.
But if you need to draw, if you need more than 1 card, like.
And if someone's ever talking, Sharon, the difference between those 2 cards is Bianca's actually just always Sharon. It will draw you 3, but at times it's just that much better.
There's been times when it doesn't draw you 3, but
most of the time it is Sharon. If not,
about 80% of the time, it's probably as good as Sharon. And when dealing with ends later into the game, it becomes substantial. The upside is much higher, whereas Sharon is always incredibly subpar.
So we're going to go into some of the Pokemon search. We have 5 cards that find Pokemon in the deck. The main one being Ultra Ball, because its activation cost is discarding 2 cards, which is really good to jumpstart your Eels, your Dynamotor engine, by discarding electric energies and reusing them. Not only speeds you up, but it's a free roll kind of discard, which is always nice.
The other thing that's really nice with it is, and I think people don't really actively think about, is you're dumping cards that are bad in matchups, and this is especially relevant when you're dealing with a deck like this, which has a bunch of silver bullets. You can tell when something's not going to be relevant, and in those situations, you're thinning your deck out of those as potential draws later on. As you're thinning cards back in your deck, you want to increase your live draws, your density of answers to in your deck. So dumping cards that you know are not going to be relevant once you set up and stuff is pretty useful. Like there's small percentiles, but it helps you win games that are going to be very close. So just being able to dump dead cards is pretty significant.
Yeah, it just gets anything. This card doesn't get anything, only 90 HP or less. But 90 HP happens to be all of the Eels, Animolga. So it's pretty good in the deck, pretty self-explanatory. It helps quicker starts a lot of the times. Gets Emolga, so it's better turn 1 play.
I'm not convinced that 3-2 in favor of Ultra Balls is correct. I originally had 4-2 in favor of Ultra Ball, and ended up having to go down to 5, and made the switch over to the second level ball because it is a little less demanding on the discards. So like if you want to late game have to get something like an Eel with a Skyline, you don't want to discard stuff, it gives you another option to do that. I don't know if that's even correct. It played well for me, so the difference is probably pretty minimal, but it might just be correct for the 4th Ultra Ball, because I do feel like it's a better card in the deck. That
would be a bit more as a Skyla target for the Eels, but I do believe that it could be possible that it does allow for more nut draws, if you will, like quicker, faster draws. Then it goes into probably just 2 of the best cards in the format right now. Switch in this deck actually
I can't
incredible.
Even believe it.
Yeah, this guy's been playing since the beginning of Pokemon,
and he told me like the laughing stock.
He told me, and I always find it funny that he said it at certain points. Switch was a little bit unplayable
every point.
Every point, and so what was it? The black and white format?
Yeah,
incredible. Like
the fact that it's not even close to being good enough, and
incredible.
He kept printing it, and it finally got its day.
Got good, and now it's at a point where people coming up now, they just go, oh well, this is a deck 2 switch, like minimal is like kind of what we're getting. Like when people are just throwing together decks off the top of their head, possibly more. This deck plays 4 switch, guys. It's obviously one of the real reasons it's really good is because of the eel.
You need to be able to reset,
level up your guys, reset. Having that Sky Arrow Bridge or that and a free retreater allow you to, when someone gets knocked out, promote either the free retreater or a one retreat guy, or switch can be used as the same par to just get the energies loaded up, since Dynamotor only works on the bench.
Yeah. The thing that I tried doing with the changes made to the deck originally with Skyla being added was I would try to go down a 3 switch, which seems somewhat reasonable, especially with the Skyro Bridge. And if they're not killing your active Rayquaza, you're probably in good shape anyways. Mm-hmm. And there were games where it was fine, but I found myself wanting the 4th switch a lot. And being able to trim down certain cards was always something I was trying to do to be able to diversify my trainers and everything. But switch is just one of those cards you can't go less than 4 on. And like I wouldn't even experiment with it. I quickly proved myself wrong with
switch there. Just proving to be way better than we all think. And there's a card that I think we all know is very good. That's Pokemon Catcher. We playing 3 of it, folks.
I still Gust of Wind to me.
Gust of Wind to this guy. To me, it's Pokemon Catcher. I didn't play with Gust of Wind. I just collected the cards back then, as most of us did. But he was winning tournaments. But this card's still winning tournaments in 2012, almost 13.
Yeah, I don't think a deck's won a tournament without Pokemon Catcher in it. More or less since its release. But
we're playing.
I'm sure there was some. There was like Bioplume decks that didn't run it.
We're playing 3 of them. You want to comment on 3? Why there's 3?
One, you're not a terribly aggressive deck. Like you don't really need to be pressuring your opponents. You can sit there and slug it out with their active.
Very
majority of the games, where like you don't need to have to kill things on the bench a lot of times. That doesn't mean you don't want to, but like you can get away with not having to always be able to kill something on the bench. The other thing is a lot of times you want to be killing the Pokemon that has energy on it. If it's their attacker that is threatening you, you want to be able to strip them of their energy and really press the advantage that you get from having energy acceleration because they can't keep up with you.
Yeah, and this is a reactionary deck, folks. So there's a lot of silver bolts and stuff like that. You're taking them out. You're getting them with Ultra Ball. You're putting them out there. You're loading them up in a turn and attacking and killing. And a lot of times that's their active Pokemon. That's what you're dealing with. But then again, like it's catcher, you don't need
sometimes you need to close out games. You want to get you do want to get the jump on some Pokemon, but there's very few games where I would ever feel like I need a 4th catcher. Like you want 1 or 2 a game. And with 4 Skylas now and the computer search, you can get those catchers when you need them.
It's a lot easier to find those catchers, which is a little annoying for some people.
Right.
So that is all the trainers and supporters we're playing. We're going to quickly hit on the energies real quick. Not a lot to say here. We're playing, like we said, this is a toolbox deck. There are 4 prisms and 1 fire energy. If you want to talk about that. And a lot of electric energies because that is... That's an I like. Did you like?
The 9 was before the
oh yeah, it just covered the energy source.
I actually feel like one of the biggest issues with the deck I've been having, and it statistically shouldn't be too big of a problem, but I just really notice it whenever it happens, is I'll end up getting starved for lightning energies. Like I won't be able to get them into the discard pile early enough, and I'll have more Eels out than I have Dynamotors to work with.
Yeah.
So, and it's a big problem. I'd love to have more energy in the deck. Like something closer to 15 is really where I'd like to be, but you can't run it. Like it would make the deck more effective, but you just can't do it. 1 fire is a reusable, like you can super rot it back, you can energy search for it, and you really want 5 sources of fire in the deck overall. So you have the 4 prisms, which also enable the Shaman and the Terrakion, obviously. Mm-hmm. And if you get 2 of them, Mewtwo's second attack, which I can't even tell you the name of, is like Cybolt or something. Psydrive, okay.
Let's check real quick, guys. I think it's called Psydrive. But prisms are real good.
We have to wait for it to load, though.
I love how long it takes to load. That looks like Psydrive.
Oh,
one word. I was thinking it was going to be like hyphenated.
No, I didn't think Drive was in it, so.
Yeah, but guys, overall,
the hyphen's an X-ball, though, I believe.
Yes. Is it? We were just on this and read it. Nope.
Oh.
Nope. No hyphens.
I'm just.
Mewtwo hates hyphens.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the deck, guys. Like I said, are there any real quick changes to the Pokemon that you either want to make or per people in their region could be making? Like you said that Shaman and the Little Big Ray might not necessarily be very good. Is there anything else?
Little Big Ray. I don't know. We just keep adding.
It's going to be longer. It's just going to be a T-shirt of just big little baby.
Making a T-shirt of that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're all about the merchandise.
Is there
some of the cards that are interesting in there? see, what do we?
Thunderous is something that we were
Thunderous is another one that I
talking about
love,
recently.
especially with the switching and stuff. Like, it gets the energy out of the deck and into play / your
Something you were
discard
just
pile.
talking about.
Something to be a little bit more aggressive with. Very good with energy switch. If you ran it, I'd almost consider a second one, a second energy switch.
I like
that
that.
is,
I like
which
that.
is completely reasonable. I would be playing it over the Zekrom if it could one-shot a Tornado CX without like a plus power.
It only has
But
160.
It can't,
It has 160.
It would have to be played alongside the Zekrom there. But it's another card that I've been a really big fan of.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other ones.
The Raikou.
Raikou, yeah, we touched on Raikou. That's a good card.
I would
better when
try
people are
something
playing.
like Ditto, even just because you want something to be able. It lets you
Again, another
effectively
reactionary
have
card.
Dynamos on your bench, and if they try to hit it, you just don't make it a Dynamo. You make it one of your big EX guys or something.
Mm-hmm.
They can soak up that damage without dying, and it's also just like a blank slate active Pokemon that can become like Emolga.
Oh yeah,
Or
makes them all go better.
Anything that that you particularly need at the time. The deck is shy of good opening Pokemon, so something like that gives you a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, but that looks like anything. Is there anything else you want to hit on with the Pokemon, or do you want to just real quick talk about some of the matchups you could see, or what's good or favorable, or what you don't want to be running into?
Geez. Well, I don't want to run into Basculins.
Yeah.
That's for sure. We
There's
got one up there. I think it's what's that coming in behind us?
More of them.
Is that a second Basculin? Jeez. You got a whole pond behind us. But, no, in all seriousness, though, Landorus is the biggest issue. A very aggressive Mewtwo start, especially when you're on the draw. On the play, I don't mind it so much, because you can kind of just overwhelm the board, and you can get your Mewtwo going. But, like, those are really the two things that pressure you. Beyond that, the Darkrai's a little bit slower now, and not as popular. But you also have Terrakion for it. And if you can pull that off, and then you can stabilize with the Rayquazas throughout the course of the game beyond that, that's fairly good. The slower decks you don't have to worry about, just because they're trying to play the dominant role of being the one that takes over the game once they set up, and they quickly realize that not only are you going to be ahead on prizes against them, but
this just does
your
that
deck
better, because nothing kills like Rayquaza does. It's
right,
that's the name of this game. That guys, you have a lot of stuff to kill things in specific matchups, and you just kill everything else.
People who know me from this game for years now, I was always playing the decks that were just able to just have that trump card. Like I played Blaziken in 04, where I made the finals of the world. So like that was had Rayquaza EX then, and it was just kill your active whenever. I had Magnezone Prime with Magnivore. That was my outlook. I had Metagross Dragonite in 2007 was one of my big decks. That was the deck that could just deal unlimited damage once it sets up. LBS, the Blastoise EX deck from 2006. That was Lugia EX hitting for 200 and Steelix sniping for 100. Like that's always been my play style, and it still holds true here. Like this is something I'd feel comfortable with. Yeah.
So if you're going into a cities, I think we're both giving this the seal of approval. It's a real cool deck. There's a lot of changes you could make. Second energy switch if you want it. You could be playing Thunderous. There's all the things that you want to make, but definitely make sure that you look into what other people playing in your area. And
if there's just a huge amount of Landorus, I'd probably lean towards a different deck. But with the success of Keldeo,
this is a very good. If you want to hit on that real slightly, is it just that it is a lot easier for you to get to the 3 energies to kill with the Rayquaza?
You're not nearly as weak to N as they are.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the big thing. I'm not saying that Blastoise can't beat you, because it can. Like I managed to go 2-1 in a match against David Cook in testing the other night. They were somewhat illegitimate wins.
I went 0-3, so I mean,
I did lose like the next 2 after that match, so it wasn't particularly good. But, and he wasn't even running Shaman. So
that looks like everything. This is Eelbox. If you guys want to try it out, talk about it in the description. Let us know what you think about it. So for our NEOStreams, my name's Alex. This is Chris. Thank you guys for showing up.